All right, everybody. Thanks so much for stopping by another live episode of Real Estate Titans, sponsored by Lion Bolt Media. I'm your host, Greg Fowler, traveling throughout the marketplace, interviewing the top real estate professionals in our field, essentially gathering insight, inspiration, what really drives and motivates these top producers above and beyond everybody else in what I'd like to consider a real estate titan. Now, our very special guest and feature titan today from beautiful Boston, Massachusetts, none other than Ethan Goodrich. Ethan, it's an honor and a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, thank you so much, Greg. It's a pleasure being here.
Oh, this is great. And I can't wait for everybody out there just to get to know you a little bit better as a man, as a business professional, and everything that you do for the real estate world and community. So Ethan, without further ado, let's just dive into the series of questions. First one being just letting everybody know a little bit about who you are, where you're from, what got you into the business, and really where you are in your progression to today.
Yeah, okay. So I started I graduated college in 2006 and I moved out west to Arizona. Wow. And worked for the Diamondbacks, which is the baseball team, the pro baseball team there. And I was like one of those sponsors, one of those mascots on the field with the Pepsi thing. I was I was shooting t-shirts out of a cannon and running around like in Chase Field in Arizona. There's a lot of stuff in between innings. So as a 22-year-old, that's what I was doing for a full-time job, making $75 a game. And that was my only income. And, that was just, kind of just getting a job. And I've always been obsessed with baseball. So I took it. And my wife at the time was dating someone who became single. Okay. For a long time she was dating someone, and I'd known her for a long time. And I went home for like a family reunion and ended up I needed to move back to be with her. So packed up my bags after being there for about a year and came to Boston. As that, everyone knows during that time, it was a recession, kind of getting into it. So kind of bounced around bartending jobs and stuff. And finally, I couldn't get a job anywhere. Like my business degree didn't do anything. My father-in-law to be at the time was, he's like, you should get a good job in real estate. They hire, anyone on the street. Oh my gosh. So I was like, oh, that sounds awesome. And, went and worked for a company and got into it, which was, I'd say probably like day 10, I was like, oh my God, there's so much opportunity in this field based on the type of people that are in the industry. I would say that the entry to get in was super low. But also you had, Harvard graduated, real estate agents that were in the same office as you, and you'd have high school graduates. And not to say one is smarter than the other, but, there was just a big gap between, I guess the talent pool from, and I felt like there was an opportunity to start a company and, really do it the way I felt like there was room for a lot of improvement in the real estate game. Wow. So I started, after working in Mass at the time, you only needed to be working under a broker for a year, and then you can start your own. Every state kind of has different guidelines for that. So I started my own company after about a year working for someone. And I guess that was my entry point into the industry. And I was 24, starting my own company and getting married and having my first child with my wife. And I had the child before getting married, so one of those weddings where the kids there. And then I think that pressure of being a dad and being a husband and supporting the family really drove me from like 0 to 60 versus like a lot of people that kind of, I feel like, get their feet wet in the real estate industry because there's kind of a part-time job, seasonal employment stigma that it gets, as part of the industry. But that really got me into like, let's make this a career and let's see how to make it profitable. So in Boston, you can actually start in leasing. And most people, when when you're in real estate, you only work off sales, and leasing might be, something you don't get paid for, or maybe someone throws you a bone here or there. But in Boston, there's people that work just in leasing, and they're full-time career real estate agents that work on leasing. So everyone starts on Newbury Street in Boston, which is the main shopping street, and started a company with a bunch of leasing agents, and just kind of slowly worked into sales. And as I got my feet wet with the sales process and in leasing, and the familiarity with that, familiarity with multifamily sales, and then slowly just kind of figuring it out as I went into training myself for being a manager and then also a salesman.
Gosh. And when you're talking about that, Ethan, though, as you're laying the foundation from, right out of college and then moving to Arizona, and your relationships, and, obviously bringing you to the East Coast that way, and really feeling it, that's incredible. And I love it. You're painting the picture of you being out on the field, and there's so many sports fans that are tuning into this right now saying, oh, that's awesome. And, I wish I did that when I was younger too. You tick that box, right? Which is really awesome. But
the whole time I'm like, they're going to need a sub at some point. They're going to turn to me, because I played baseball like to college and everything. And I'm like, this was my opportunity. But it was a fun experience for sure. Working for that team.
Oh yeah, I bet. I bet there was tons of excitement, and again, just being a part of any sporting event that way is just wonderful and fantastic, and really just experience life and progression. But then as you kind of fell into real estate through your father-in-law's suggestion, or father-in-law to be like, hey, real estate. And I think that there's very few people, and especially through the Titans, we've had hundreds of episodes, and I don't even think I can count more than on one hand where they knew at a very, very young age, I'm going to be a real estate professional. It's one of those things that you kind of fall into, or you're recommended, or you have a peer that's doing well in real estate and kind of goes through, but you've seen it through progression because you've been in the business for over a decade. And, so let's talk about, so after you jumped in and you were kind of going down, as you said, kind of starting in leasing and then improving and going through into different progressions. Yeah. What's the next chapter and leading up to today?
So I had my story is a little different because I had to figure out how to run a business and also figure out how to be an agent at the same time. So I was always kind of pulled in two directions, and figuring out, how much support I need to give, and then how much training I needed to, or how much risk I needed to take with myself, and learning the business for myself. And it was always like a balancing act of, getting agents to trust to work for me, and for me to be their mentor, and then pulling back and focusing on my own growth. And I think it started with, it's just baby steps, and, just getting someone to work for you to start is such a, I had so much gratitude. Someone actually wanted to work for me. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Someone's wanting to work for this guy who has no experience. And I remember I probably hired over 130 agents that have worked for me over the years. And, the first 10 or so might have only lasted like a month. Like the turnover rate was like a month or so. Yeah. And I have a 12-person team right now, and everyone's been on the team for, I would say the average is probably about 4 or 5 years. Beautiful. Now. So it's, a really low turnover rate. We don't really lose anyone unless we lost someone that was moving kind of like I did for a relationship, sure. But stayed in their industry. So and I think it's just a slow progression of figuring out yourself on the team side of what type of people you want to hire, and not just hiring anyone with a warm breath, and in figuring out who matches well with your energy. And I find that a lot of easygoing people, maybe I don't need a gunslinger or prototypical car salesman type pushy agent or that type of energy. I think there's some important sales tips to learn from different styles, but you can kind of make it your own. And I just found more of figuring out people that I'd want to hang out with outside of work, were the type of people I wanted to hire. Yeah. In that process, I mean, everyone's like, how do I hire an agent on my team? And I'm like, oh my God, how much time do you have to like let you know all the failures I've made? And some of it's becoming friends with them and getting too close, and then having to break up and having a lot of breakups. So there's a lot of pain and struggle that goes with figuring out the boundaries too of that peer relationship. So that definitely, I feel like I now am completely comfortable with the hiring process. Gotcha. And there's still, I guess, new roles that emerge that I feel like we could have specialists in, and that's where our improvement can go. Sure. But and our processes always can improve. But the actual type of people and energy I like is it's now rooted in our team.
But I love the fact that you identified and addressed that, and it didn't happen overnight, though, Ethan. No. I mean, as you stated, I mean, it was repeat and trial and error until you found that formula and it works for you. But there isn't a one size fits all in real estate. Being a team leader or producer, either way, right? I mean,
and it's good to have a lot of personality diversity on your team, and just to be able to have different types of and I wish I did this earlier in my career, but personality tests, really trying to match, the type of either staff or support with their personality, and then because getting into real estate doesn't mean you need to be an agent. You could also be support or marketing or transaction coordinating, and I think there's a certain personality type for each of them, and there's a lot of success that can happen in each of those paths. And if you're, a rainmaker or a team leader, the agent that's bringing most of the business to the team, I think there's a personality type for that as well. It's not always the same, and I'm sure a lot of people do well with different personality types, but I find that like it's a general 80-20 rule where most people have like similar styles that are in certain roles. So I try to focus on matching that style now as well, and trying to learn where you're not putting a square peg in a round hole with some people that want to get in the industry.
Gosh, that's beautiful. And again, that Ethan, that's why I'm really enjoying our conversation, is because you're somebody who's a true practitioner. You've been there, you've done that, you've really seen the pros and cons, and really evaluated and readjusted to where you're at. I want to talk about Compass for a second, and what your thought process was, being there, because there's so many different companies, there's so many other opportunities, and Compass has a wonderful brand and business. But I was just curious as what your thought process was. And why.
So in 2015, Compass came to Boston, and I had been following them a couple years before because they were a rental agency in New York. Okay. And they had a really good website. And I remember turning to my website developer. I'm like, can you make this website? No.
No.
This is going to be so expensive. I was like, all right, never mind. But like, let's at least try to make the theme look like it, or, know. And then I remember they announced the move to Boston. They one of their strategies initially was like kind of finding some top agents in the city and building off of them. And I think that was kind of their strategy nationally too. And then in 2018, they approached me probably for about 6 months. Okay. And I had owned an independent firm for 8 years at the time. Mm-hmm. And, I was always like, kind of against the corporate man, and didn't want to, lose power or creative control, or have red tape with any of the decisions I like to do. So it was a tough decision, but it just came down to a profit and loss statement, and figuring out, or, part of it's a leap of faith, but figuring out, when they offered to buy my company, what that would mean for the future, what would be the break-even point, figuring out a split versus not having one at all, or being able to determine the agent splits that work for me, and then having to work within one and figuring out what that margin would be for your team members. So, I definitely am more of a math-brained thinker, and just broke it down on Excel sheets and tried to, as well as taking an optimistic view and risk into working there. But, going into making that decision, I guess what I really love about it is not what I didn't even cross paths. It didn't go through my head at all. Wow. I think the biggest thing was joining there from like a small firm no one knows, and being part of, like, you always feel like you're under attack as an independent agent or independent owner.
Sure.
And the sense of community, like, it was like almost like a weight off my back of like, oh, I work at Compass, and everyone's like, oh yeah, I know Compass. And versus like Goodrich Residential, which is this family-owned business, and no one, it was always an explanation of who we were. Mm-hmm. And then I always felt like someone was stealing my ideas or secrets, or I couldn't tell anyone anything about my business when I owned my own. And joining there was so collaborative, and these top agents in the whole city and the state are sitting next to me, giving me ideas, or we're sharing listings, or just talking shop and becoming friends. So that was like by far for me the best part about Compass, and not just Boston, but nationally, and just being able to go to some of the retreats and feeling like a part of a community. And it definitely has like a cult feel when you first join, but now it's very like comfortable, and it doesn't have that energy. I would say.
Yeah, well, but I think you're identifying so many different things that people think about as they evaluate their next chapter in their careers or their lives. Yeah. And I know, I mean, you identified it right off the bat as just the brand feel of Compass is wonderful. I mean, just at first glance appearances, as you're like, look at their website, and then you kind of go through, hey, how can we do that? But then it goes so much deeper to the numbers, and the numbers don't lie, which I think is crucially important. But then you look at it further, the unidentified opportunity of collaboration and that community, I think is huge. The fact that you're able to maintain your internal culture with your team underneath an umbrella, I think is wonderful, because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but again, you don't feel smothered. You don't feel like the red tape is there, as you mentioned, or that you're handcuffed. I mean, that's a huge thing. That's a huge thing.
Yeah. I mean, and, there's always going to be rules working for someone else and that you have to follow. And, but I never feel like smothered, like you said. You just kind of have to adapt on that front. And, instead of my office where there was like zero paperwork that I had my agents do it, we now have a lot, to handle. But that's really it for the main change is kind of, there is a small amount of red tape, but the amount of, the amount of growth, I think you get and it's not for everyone, but I think for me joining Compass for the brand in the city, it's very important because it means winning, 85% of listing presentations I go on.
Huge.
Having, 5 buyer leads a day, and you have that credibility behind you, can be selective with your clientele. And there's a sense of like built-in loyalty when someone calls you and trusts that brand ahead of time. So maybe you're giving away a little bit more with the split, but I think it's probably like 2 to 1, what we were doing before. So
I love it, Ethan. And again, I just love hearing it from your direct perspective, because you went through the thought processes and all the decision-making and the lists and weighing. So it's just really great for everybody out there to kind of know why you're where you're at. So, but with the team, before I move on to the next question, I know everybody's always wanting to learn and grow from the Titans and look at, the patterns on advice. But I do want to ask about your team specifically. And we had a brief conversation before we went live, but I want to know a little bit about the growth of the team and opportunities for people, if anything resonates with them, or if there's any connection or opportunity. What's that look like for you guys?
Okay. So, as far as like, just to put it in perspective, we're a pretty young team. Everyone's, in their 30s or 20s in my team.
Love it.
And I say that because I think there's a lot of teams that start becoming a team a little bit later on in their career. And there's a lot of different types of teams. We're like a traditional, we're almost like a company, our team. We run it like a tight ship. We have an operations director. We have support. I have my own assistant, and then we have Compass as support. And then also, a leader of the team as well. So, but there's teams that operate like where there's 2 people and they're there just to make sure the other one can have vacation time. And there's that type of team. And then there's, smaller teams that are a smaller scale of our operation. You don't see a lot of mega teams in Massachusetts, like in some states, but so we're on the larger side of things. So we definitely run it more like a company. Our growth, we've always been about this size, like 10 to 15 agents. But now we have, 15 quality or 12 quality, like really great agents right now. Wow. And, our growth went from, we did 75 million in sales last year and about 100 sales. And we're actually we're at that number right now we're at 102 sales and 75 million this year, and we're only halfway through. So it's
great.
It's definitely someone's calling me in. It's definitely crazy the amount of growth, and that number doubled the year before too. So but I think part of it is the market right now. It's people are very positive on it. And then part of it is our team is now hitting a stride in that like year 5, year 6 agent where things go a lot slower for them, and they can really do a quality job and take on a lot of clients at the same time. Wow. Versus being like overwhelmed. But I think there's always opportunity for us to do better and not be so much like be better as a team helping each other. And there's opportunity for people to join our team now as well.
Okay.
I think if I was to do it over again, I probably would work for a top real estate agent and just take notes. It probably would have shaved 2 or 3 years off my career growth. And one of the things I do with my agents is I'll hire someone on my team who's on the sales team. I'll make them become my assistant for a year.
Love it.
And they'll make money, but it's more about like you get to learn from a top producer in the city, and someone that also has like a really diverse background with being part of thousands of transactions. Sure. And basically thousands and tens of thousands of problems. And I think that's what really separates people is how many problems they've seen and gotten through. So that's, something that we're now trying to hire that, that position again, and expand it for, the next year. And then, if people want to go on their own or stay in that position, that's always an opportunity too. But, I think that does well for a jump start for a lot of our agents.
Oh, I think it's brilliant. Ethan, anybody out there is watching or listening, that's sound advice and absolutely true. There's so many professionals that I've talked to over, all the years, and it's really learning from the best and brightest minds directly. And it's like a paid internship, if you think about it, or a mentor mentee. What an incredible opportunity to be able to eat, sleep, and breathe directly with somebody who's been there, done that. And you're absolutely right. Cutting years and years off of a learning curve to get you there. And some people argue, oh gosh, well, I'm getting paid less or my split's different.
Yeah, right.
That's short-term thinking. Long-term is you're going to make that 10 times over, really cutting through, understanding the processes, the systems, negotiation, human behavior. There's so many things that you would learn that way. Huge. And I agree with you 100%. 100%.
And just, the nuances of every city that you work in is, I feel like, a lot of people have put up these blocks of, oh, I can't do that because I don't know if I'm doing it the right way. And I think there is a lot of, things that happen in Boston that don't happen in, 20 miles out of the city. Right. For instance, like we use attorneys like from start to finish, and outside of the city, sometimes they use agents to start the whole legal work. And it's like, this is completely different, and we're, 20 minutes away. and, or the way they write their terms, or, the relationships that exist, the people that you need to know about, and, developments and buildings, and all of the name recognition you need, and just the nuances of those towns and cities are really important. In Boston, we have like a ton of towns. There's like 2,000 towns or something ridiculous.
Wow.
So usually you cover more than one town, or if you're in the city, you might cover 30 neighborhoods or so. So unless you're one of these agents that just works in one neighborhood and is has that book of business in that neighborhood and knows everyone.
Sure.
But I think the majority of people are used to covering a lot of stuff. So you have to really know the nuances, and I think that's where the mentorship is super important. Learning that, so you don't raising your hand and asking dumb questions. Yeah.
No, Ethan, I think that's fantastic. And again, just to give everybody a little bit of perspective on that, we're going to have links in the comments down below as always, so that you can learn a little bit more. We're going to have websites, social media links, everything along those lines. I would highly encourage everybody to follow this man and the team and really learn a little bit more, especially if you are in the Massachusetts or greater Boston area. But Ethan, I want to ask the second question, even though I've been asking you a million questions as it is, but the second main question, and this is what everybody tunes in for, to dive a little bit deeper into the guidance side. So I guess if you could look back at your career thus far and pick or choose one or two things that you added or implemented to your business that you really saw growth, you saw the needle move, what advice would you give anybody watching or listening? Doesn't matter if they're new or seasoned, anything in between. What would you say?
Well, first of all, like the mental block thing was huge. I remember making a shift from leasing into sales and not feeling like I couldn't do it, just because I hadn't done it before. And there's not really much difference in the process or how you behave, or the qualifying that happens with the lead. But that was a mental block that I shouldn't have had. And I would say if I was to I guess a turning point for me was I was taking on so much work and not letting go of control. And part of it was you're kind of, as a business owner, you're kind of constantly concerned about liability and getting sued, or your agent's doing something wrong and you're getting sued. And so, just always having part of my mind was always attached to that, like, it was stressing me out. And hiring someone to kind of take over the operations was to start just hiring an assistant. And then the next step was, turning that person into the head of operations. That was a big change for our team, where I could really be freed up and focus on sales and focus on the direction of the team. And I wish I did it sooner. I think that a lot of people are like, how am I going to pay for this? With a lot of their risks. And my real estate coach, he always has kind of the philosophy of just jump and you'll figure it out. And that's kind of my philosophy in life too. So when someone else is supporting that or telling me to do it, I'm like, all right, I'm in. Let's spend some money here, or take that risk. And I think hiring someone is to help you, and you're not going to be good at everything. You're if you're a salesman, you're probably not going to be that organized, or you'll be missing something. And finding that missing piece was I think it's a selfish move to think you can do everything. Think you can do marketing, think you can do operations and bookkeeping and all the showings, all the open houses. I remember my real estate coach was like, Ethan, you're not doing any more open houses. He's like, that's what your team is for. And that's an opportunity for your team to get leads. And, I wish I had that opportunity as a young agent to work people's open houses, because it's free leads and they're great listings. But, I guess getting that advice and direction from my coach and getting the support from other people was the biggest thing that helped me develop.
I mean, you mentioned so many incredible things for everybody to think about, through that. I mean, you're talking about taking the leap and understanding that, no one's perfect and no one has everything. You can be a jack of all trades, master of none. You're never going to be great at anything.
Right.
Bringing on somebody as an assistant as a first step and then turning into operations, I think is brilliant. I don't know if that's the first time I've heard that, but that's a really, really smart move. But I have heard time and time again that operations position is a game changer when it comes, for stress and legality and just daily workflow. And again, whatever.
And they shouldn't be doing sales.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be in their head. And if it's not in their head, they're a lot better focused, the operations people. Sorry to interrupt them.
No. But you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right there, Ethan. And I think that basing it off of the process of you, again, you've been through this, you've done this. Like everybody, hopefully you're really taking this to heart, because Ethan isn't just saying this for fun. He's literally just showing you the playbook or the blueprint to where he's gotten to today. And there's so much truth and knowledge to that. But then, you take it a step further, looking at the highest and best uses of your time. And it's not to say that the other objects that are in front of you to complete a transaction from start to finish aren't important, because they are. But where does your time lie, Ethan? And to everybody out there who's watching or listening, think about your day and what moves the needle in your business and growth. Anything that takes you away from that is slowing production, is slowing growth. And that's not good for anybody.
Yeah. Like, what are you the best at? Just do that. Or, and it's easier said than done.
Sure.
There's a lot of stuff I don't like to do that I have to do. But I remember, lead qualification was something I'm like, I'm really good at it. And I was giving it to people, and the rates were going down. I was, pretty big on numbers, like I said. And I was watching that. I'm like, I got to be doing this, and I got to get back into this. This is my strength. I'd rather qualify a lead and hand it to someone than miss the opportunity. So I find that, some teams might think of that as like, a job, as a leader, someone else would do. But I find that, like, if you're good at it and it's working, I think that you should maybe consider that as, something that's part of your daily routine. But yeah, passing the buck and to, someone that might be better, it happens a lot on our team.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. And again, for anybody to think that they're the only one that can do something, I think is crazy. There's always somebody who eats, sleeps, and breathes that segment, and they'll enjoy it better. I love that you're identifying, your strengths and weaknesses. And I think that we should all do that on a regular basis and evaluate who we're surrounding ourselves with and what processes are put into place. And that's how you grow. That's how you change. I love your coach, by the way. I don't know who your coach is, but the fact that you have one. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Steve Shull, he's kind of
no, I don't.
Yeah. He coaches a lot of Compass agents and
Wonderful.
A lot of, other agencies, but he is based in California, and he's just, been really helpful for me. Being able to relate to, he has a lot of clients like myself that are team leaders. So it's been really helpful.
Big shout out to Steve, right?
Steve, yeah.
If you're watching or listening, Steve, good work with Ethan. Ethan's really doing this. And again, but I think that that is another takeaway that I'm getting from the advice, is bringing on coaching. And there's a lot of professionals out there that say, do I need a coach? How do I even hire a coach? And I can hold myself accountable. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not the point. I think that there's so much more to the right coach. I'm not saying every coach fits this mold, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So some people, I'm not a good example for a lot of real estate practices. Like, I'm not going to door knock or cold call, and a lot of people do really well with that. Right. And I know that's important. So I mean, and Steve would kill me because most of what he teaches is that. Okay. But I find what I like from him the most is the emotional support, the support of like, am I doing the right move? Am I making the right decision? What are other teams doing? Like with their, how are they structuring their team? Or like, what is their, when they get a listing, what happens? And he's really good at walking me through like other things. And sometimes I'm like, I don't like that. I'm doing it my way. And he might tell other people, this is how Ethan's doing it. Ethan, can you connect them? So he's always connecting me with people from around the country.
Love that.
And I'm like, just talking shop of like, how do you do your marketing? Like, where are you wasting money, or how are you hiring people, and what is your strategy like with buyer agents or listing agents, or do you do that? And so I think that's where I find the most use of coaching. If you're just a solo agent, I find the accountability would be a big thing with coaching. But I also think it becomes like a community as well, where you start getting introduced to people. You might get some referrals out of it. And you might strive, like I do, to impress the coach. So I'm always like, oh, damn it, Steve's about to call. Like, I got to tell him, like, what I didn't do this week, and he's going to be pissed. Oh, no. So that's, it's, I like that element of kind of having to answer to someone. But, before, when I was running my own independent firm, I wish I had a coach, because he would have helped me through a lot of decisions that were, hiring, firing, direction, strategy, people that were like not a good fit, or, I don't know, just like those things. It's good to run by someone that's objective to everything.
I love it. And really somebody who can be neutral and just open enough to call things out as they are, to be a soundboard, to be a dot connector in the real estate space, to really provide systems and processes, as you mentioned. I mean, there's so many things to that, but the right coach, they're not all created equal. I mean, I've had conversations with so many of them. I'm sure you have too. And everybody's watching or listening, like, well, where is that coach? They're out there. You got to find the right one, and it's got to be right for you. Whether you mentioned, Ethan, individual, or you're a team lead, or a mega team, a smaller team. I mean, there's needs as you evolve in your career, and there's knowledge bases associated with that too. And, I'm a firm believer working with people who practice what they preach, right? So do they eat, sleep, and breathe what they do? Do they really have true perspective, or did they just read some books and took some courses and now they're a coach? I'm a coach, so yeah, it's really interesting.
Self-proclaimed coaches, I feel like. And I feel like the space is getting bigger too, where, I was on, oh my God, what's that audio-based app a lot earlier this year.
Are you talking about
Clubhouse?
Yes, Clubhouse.
Okay. Everyone in Clubhouse is a real estate coach.
Or a guru, or something. Yeah. Oh my God.
And I'm like, oh my God, are you also a real estate agent? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, this is, and I'm wondering, like, there's only so many like high-end client. Everyone has these ridiculous stats on there, but I find that, like, definitely, like, I know people that have not like Steve's personality, and it's not a good fit. And I've, I hope Steve isn't watching, but he is, it gets a certain type, and he's no bullshit, and you're going to answer to him, and also, like, it's, this is the system. It's the Bill Belichick, a Patriot way system. If you do these things, you'll be successful. And, I like that. Like, kind of, this is what it is.
I agree. I don't need to reinvent the wheel when it's already there, and especially somebody who's laying it out. But ultimately, as it comes down to it, and as you know, Ethan, whether it's working with a coach or not, or being a team lead or not, it's all about the daily activities and the continuous nature of work and velocity that makes it happen. And doesn't happen overnight, but you do the right things the right way, long enough periods of time with the right people, and results start to happen. And you're a perfect example of that. I know that you're showing a level of humility, my friend, but you're doing some incredible things. And
I know the whole Titan term. I'm like, oh, no, this is not.
Well, get ready, because
I don't know about this.
I'm dubbing you right now. You are an official real estate Titan, Ethan. That is a badge of honor that no one can ever take away from you.
Okay.
That is yours forever, my friend. So
all right.
That is it.
I'm done.
It's there. So humility down for a second for that. But no, seriously, Ethan, this has been an incredible opportunity, and you've shed so much knowledge and inspiration, and really just getting to know who you are and why you do what you do. But then furthermore, for people out there, just learning from somebody who's a true practitioner is just an absolute incredible opportunity. I know everybody appreciates this, myself included. I just can't thank you enough for taking the time, Ethan. Anything else you want to mention for closing, anything like that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, if any of your listeners need help growing a team, I'm always happy to help with that. And just please email me or Instagram, direct message us. And especially like with the team, like the growth and hiring, and I feel like I could be a good asset for that. And then, yeah, if anyone is in the Boston area, looking to join a team, I'd love to meet you. And, whether you're, a year of experience or just getting into the industry, or, 10 years in, we have kind of, different agents of different levels on our team. And it's just kind of a match to our personality that, whether it's going to be a good fit or not. But even if it's not, I'd love to meet you and, introduce myself.
Gosh, that's huge, Ethan. And again, I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart opening that door. Your DMs will be a little flooded, so hopefully you're okay with that. But and I would encourage anybody out there, because the audience is so in depth as far as a national, international basis. Referrals. I mean, again, anybody out there who wants to send business or referral business to the team, please, I'd encourage that. We're going to have links in the comments down below, like as always, so that you can really connect and engage. But I think that that's an important thing, to network with great professionals. And that's a big deal for sure.
Yeah. I mean, some agents that, that's how they make their whole living, is through referrals. And it seems like, it's always an opportunity for us to do better. And I always joke about, with my wife, let's go on a road trip and, go meet other, and she's like, that sounds like the worst. Yeah. Like me watching you work the whole time we're on vacation. But I'm like, all right, well, maybe I need to go to Nashville and all these cool cities that have real estate offices that, another thing with finding referrals I found is find a city that's symbiotic with you. I've gone to some cities and I'm like, there's no reason someone from, this city is ever coming to Boston. Right. And, put your energy where Boston is DC or Florida, or I don't know. There's just certain markets that do really well with it. So find that market for your city and put more of your energy into maybe finding 20, 30 agents in that town instead of one around the country, and being, kind of spread out.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I guess to your wife's potential thought process, oh gosh, why would I want to go around the country and watch you work? My opinion would be, you would select great locations for restaurants and activities. And it's not like you would be working the whole time. It's just along the way, you might say hi to somebody. So I get where you're coming from, Ethan, but I hear you loud and clear. But no, seriously, Ethan, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate all your time. And, I can't thank you enough for being on the show today.
Yeah. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate you having me on, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Absolutely. 100%, my friend. And everybody out there, thank you as well. And as always, for your time and attention, your love and support here at the Real Estate Titans. If you like what we're doing, please don't forget to subscribe. You know what to do at this point. I do have to give our sponsor a quick shout out, Lion Bolt Media. If you are in real estate and you're looking to grow and develop your business to a higher level with digital marketing and advertising, visit lionboltmedia.com. They have a free mini course. We are live here every Tuesday afternoon on Real Estate Titans. We have a different location, a different Titan. We'll catch everybody on the next live episode real soon. Take care. Thanks, Ethan.
Hey, Greg.
Bye.